City Council is now in session. We will hold an executive session today for the purpose of consulting with the city staff regarding pending or contemplated litigation or settlement agreements, and to hold consultation with attorneys under Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, and the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property under Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code, and personnel matters under Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, and commercial or financial information as it relates to economic development under Section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code. The City Council is now going into executive session. All right, City Council is now reconvening in open session at 2:08 p.m., and we'll move on to our ceremonial items. So I'm now going to call on Deacon Jose Rubio with Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church. If he would please come forward, and we all stand for our invocation.
Heavenly Father, creator of highly light, grant the same light to our government officials so they can proclaim your goodness and by their words and deeds give you honor in serving this beautiful city in County of Lubbock. Lord Jesus, hear us during times of trouble and protect us by the power of your love. Bless our civic leaders and give them wisdom in the decisions they make to protect and improve the lives of all citizens, the needy, the youth, and the elder population. Inspire the City Council to discern what to say, how to say it, and when to say it, what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. May the words of Mother Teresa of Calcutta illuminate the planning and accomplishments of our local government. The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. The fruit of service is peace. We ask this in the name of Jesus. And now I would like to say this prayer in Spanish because that's what I was teaching at Texas Tech in William Baptist University. Padre Celestial, Creador de la luz inextinguible, concede a nuestros oficiales del gobierno que proclamen tu bondad y que por sus palabras y acciones te honren y te sirvan en esta hermosa ciudad y condado de Lubbock. Señor Jesús, escúchanos durante los tiempos de problemas, protégenos con el poder de tu amor, bendice a nuestros líderes cívicos y dales la sabiduría en las decisiones que hacen para proteger y mejorar las vidas de todos los ciudadanos, los necesitados, la juventud y la población de la tercera edad. Inspira al concilio de la ciudad para discernir qué decir, cómo decirlo y cuándo decirlo, qué hacer, cuándo hacerlo y cómo hacerlo. Que estas palabras de la Madre Teresa de Calcuta iluminen la planeación y realización que hacen para nuestra ciudad. El fruto del silencio es la oración. El fruto de la oración es la fe. El fruto de la fe es el amor. El fruto del amor es el servicio. Y el fruto del servicio es la paz. Te lo pedimos en el nombre de Jesús. Amén.
Amen.
And now will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our country, United States flag, and to Texas. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, now calling this meeting to order. And we'll take up citizen comments at this time. And according to our rules, any citizen wishing to appear in person before a regular meeting of the City Council regarding any matter that's been posted on our agenda for the day shall complete a sign-up no later than 2 p.m. On September 24th. And we have one person today. And when you come forward, if you would, again, please say your name into the microphone, speak into the microphone, and let us know your address. We have Tim Goebel today. Mr. Goebel?
Hello, my name is Tim Goebel. I live at 5308 County Road 7550. I'm the Secretary of the HOA Board for Highland Oaks and would like to speak in favor of item number 6.7, the creation of a public improvement district for Highland Oaks. The Public Improvement District is the vehicle that will be used to raise the funds required to put in the water infrastructure within Highland Oaks subdivision and get city water to all of the houses that are out there. In addition to that, the PID restricts the payment, so we'll be responsible for the debt that comes from this water project. I'd also like to extend some thanks to the city management team, Jared, Eric, and Brianna, for all their help and guidance and a lot of patience walking through all this. We're not a development company. We're just a group of residents, and they've done a really great job helping us navigate all the, not just city, but county and state laws that are involved in all of this. And with that, I'm willing to answer any questions that the council may have at this time.
I see that. Thank you very much, Mr. Goebel. All right. Now we're going to take up item 4.1, the minutes from our regular city council meeting of August 27th and a special city council meeting that was held on September 3rd. Is there a motion to approve item 4.1? Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Any corrections to those minutes? And all in favor, please let it know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. I hear none. It's passed unanimously. So now we're going to take up our consent agenda, and no one has requested to pull any items from the consent agenda today. So is there a motion? I'll entertain a motion now to approve the consent agenda. Okay, Mr. Collins. Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Any discussion on that? I see none. Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please let it know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. It carries unanimously. Okay, now we move to our regular agenda, and we'll take up item 6.1. I'm now going to call on the city secretary to provide us with a briefing on this matter.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for the Lubbock Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. Last year, they restructured the legislature restructured their board and have added some additional positions of 3 elected officials and a county seat, which Ronnie Keister holds. This is asking for you all to nominate individuals who are eligible for reappointment. Just to name those individuals, Sonny Garza, Greg Jones, Bobby McQueen, Brady Goen, and Noe Reynolds are eligible. Should you all choose to nominate them and they are elected, they will draw straws in order to determine how their seats get staggered. Currently, they serve 2-year terms and they roll off at the same time. This would allow them to be on 4-year terms and be staggered. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Dr. Wilson.
Courtney, there were no other interested parties who would have liked to be nominated. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to nominate the following Lubbock Central Appraisal District Board of Directors members for reappointment: Sonny Garza, Greg Jones, Bobby McQueen, Brady Goen, and Noe Reynolds. Do I have a motion? So moved. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A second? Second, Mr. Rose. All in favor, please let it know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. There are none. It passes unanimously. So now we will take up item 6.2, and I'm going to call on city staff to provide us a briefing on item 6.2. City Manager, Mr. Atkinson.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, we'll run through this one pretty quickly. This is an item that is part and parcel of your now recently adopted 2024-2025 budget. Specifically, this defines and clarifies that those transmission cost of service generated franchise fees go to your general fund rather than to the Gateway Fund.
Are there any questions? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve item 6.2. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? I see none. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. So the motion to approve carries by unanimous vote. The applicant for the next item on our agenda, 6.3, is withdrawing their application, so we won't be taking any action on that item today. Without objection, now the council will conduct a consolidated public hearing on the remaining zoning cases. The council has already received in their packet the staff reports from the Planning Department and the recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And as a reminder, the purpose of the public hearing is to hear from the applicant and members of the public. The council may ask questions of the applicant or staff during the public hearing, but no discussion on the merits will be conducted by the council during the public hearing part. So now I'm going to call on staff to provide a brief summary on each agenda item subject to the public hearings. So, Mr. Atkinson, or, Kristen. Thank you, Ms. Egger.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Item 6.4 is Zone Case 2161M. The applicant is HFA for Lubbock Commercial Buildings, and the request is to rezone property from neighborhood commercial to auto urban commercial. We sent out 87 notifications, receiving 2 in opposition. The 2 in opposition were concerns from the neighborhood to the south of this property, concerned about their property values. This property is located south of 82nd Street, west of University Avenue, in District 4. Here's the response map showing the 2 responses we received in opposition. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. The subject property is currently vacant. It is surrounded by other businesses along 82nd Street with residential to the south. Current zoning is neighborhood commercial. There is additional neighborhood commercial and office zoning along 82nd Street. The future land use plan designates this property for commercial land uses. And here are some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. Here's a site plan provided by the applicant showing the proposed layout for their facility. 82nd Street is at the bottom of this site plan, so there is a large area between the end of their parking and the residential to the south. And here are proposed elevations of their building. It is for an oil change facility. The future land use map designation for commercial land uses is consistent with the request for auto urban commercial zoning. The request is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and appropriate in its location. The proposed zone change is along 82nd Street, which is designated as a principal arterial. Staff recommended approval of this request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with a unanimous vote. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? All right, proceed.
Item 6.5 is Zone Case 3267A. The applicant is Spindlebach Properties, LLC, with a request to rezone property from neighborhood commercial to heavy commercial. We sent out 25 notifications, receiving 3 in favor. This property is located south of 114th Street, east of Indiana Avenue in District 4. Here's the response map showing the properties in favor and an aerial view of the subject property. The current subject property is vacant, and there are other businesses in the area with additional vacant land. Current zoning, it is mostly surrounded by heavy commercial. There is some single-family SF2 that was previously transitioned from when those properties were annexed, with some additional auto-urban commercial along Indiana Avenue. Future land use plan designates this property for commercial land uses. And here are some photos of the subject property and surrounding area. These are graphics provided by the applicant just showing the subject property lots and a survey. The future land use map designation for commercial land uses is consistent with the request for heavy commercial zoning. The zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and appropriate in this location. It is between 116th and 118th Street, which are designated as local streets, with Indiana Avenue to the west, which is designated as a principal arterial. Staff recommends approval of this request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with a unanimous vote, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Mr. Rhodes.
Do you have any idea what they're planning on?
I believe they want to allow for office warehouse type uses on these 8 lots.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ms.
Thanks.
Hager. All right, I will now open the public hearing for items 6.4 and 6.5. Is anyone wishing to speak in opposition to either of these zone cases? If you wish to, please come forward, state your name and your opposition. Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to come forward and speak in favor of either of these items? Anyone in favor? I see no one, so I'll now close this public hearing at 2:23 p.m. Is there a motion to approve agenda items 6.4 and 6.5? Thank you, Mr. Rose. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. I hear none. Those pass 7-0. So now we move to item number 6.6, and this is to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the Code of Ordinances related to sewer line repairs on first reading, and I'm going to now call on Wood Franklin to provide the staff briefing on this item. Mr. Franklin?
See if I can find it here, I'm sorry. Oh, it's the PDF. Okay. Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. My pleasure to go ahead and talk to you about the ordinance that we have before you on our first read regarding our public sewer lateral ordinance. As you recall that during discussions, and you've heard from the ad hoc committee on sewer lateral, we've had lots of discussions on what to do with the sewer lateral ordinance and the sewer laterals, the private sewer laterals within the public right-of-way. After input from City Council during the budget hearings, we bring before you this ordinance. This is first read. It will require 2 reads prior to becoming in effect, and kind of want to outline what's involved and what's inside this ordinance. Based on the input from council gave during the budget, we have in here that the city crews will continue to perform this work, and we're again talking about the work that's in the alleys or the public rights-of-way. In the backyard, that's still the homeowner. We currently have 2 unfilled positions or unfilled crew members, so those are vacant positions that total up to about 2 crews in our pipeline maintenance. We're going to continue to try to fill those crews, and if filled, that those crews will be identified specifically for this task at hand. We also had in the budget original proposal to eliminate 3 positions. We're going to go ahead and the budget brought those positions back and retained those positions. Those were construction maintenance foremen and 2 construction maintenance workers, and those will be retained to help us with the workload associated with this and our daily tasks of pipeline maintenance. The annual material and cost and crew times, we have a capital project that's about $1.1 million that was in this budget. We're going to go ahead and continue with that. So that will continue to fund, like we have in the past, the materials and time associated with this. In order to recover some of those costs, it's proposed in this ordinance that the owner of the adjacent property will be charged a $1,000 fee per sewer lateral repairs. We're going to collect those again from the property owner. If there's a tenant there and the utilities bills in that tenant, again, it would be the property owner that's responsible for the payment of that $1,000. If that property owner has a utility bill with City of Lubbock Utilities, there is an option for a payment plan to, over the 12-month period, to go ahead and pay that $1,000 out over 12 monthly payments. In addition to all that, we have about a $300,000 assistant program that's created out of the North and East Lubbock Fund, and that's going to go to help fund an assistant program for low income for those people that have issues with that $1,000 cost. Also in here is authorizes staff to establish that assistance program and also any related policies associated with that. Because as you can imagine with this, there's a lot of policies, a lot of changes in our operations that's going to have to take place, and staff is already working on that with coordination with the City of Lubbock Water Utilities and also with the City of Lubbock Utility Billing Services. with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Collins.
When will this policy go into effect?
If this first read, if this passes, then we'll bring it back to the next city council, and then there's some posting that has to take place, so it'll be October 28th, which I believe is a Monday, would be the earliest that it would go into effect.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Great job, Wood Franklin. The one thing on the $300 assistance program, I just want to reaffirm that because it's not clearly, when you stated it, it's for those that qualify for.
Correct. There will be a qualification process that we will work with CD on that, community development, and so those people that apply for that will obviously have to qualify for it and then work with that group to hand that out.
And just to reinforce to the public that the other $1,000 can be paid out within a year. Is that correct?
Correct. If you are the property owner and you have a utility bill in your name, that means we've got something set up through Lubbock Utilities. Those two criteria are met, and you want to go ahead and pay the $1,000 out over a 12-month period, or even shorter if you want to do it 3 months. We're working with Lubbock Utilities to set that up and get that taken care of. It's kind of part of the policies that we still have to work out, but that's established in this ordinance that they can pay it over a 12-month period. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Glasheen.
We talked a lot about the actual cost of repairing one of these sewer lateral lines. Tell me about how you arrived at the $1,000 figure.
Well, our capital costs is in that capital project that we have is what funds our labors and material. And that's about $1 million, and we do about $1,000 a year. I'm rounding numbers off, or we did about on average last 3 or 4 years $1,100 or 1,100 sewer taps, and then $1.1 million. So a simple division comes out to $1,000. Obviously, our costs are more than that because we're not doing work on fire hydrants or something like that. So there are other intangible costs, but the physical cost of the city of Lubbock for those are on average about $1,000.
Is there any sort of, as I understand the ordinance written right now, there's no built-in escalation or adjustments to the $1,000 number over time. Is that right?
That's right. Right now, we don't have an escalation built in here. Of course, that's something that we would revisit every budget cycle. And if it's something that we need to adjust, then we would bring that forward at that time. But you're correct. There's no automatic adjustment at this time in the ordinance.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Harris.
Yes, I noticed when you were speaking, you said North and East Lubbock, excuse me. It's citywide, correct?
The source is out of the North and East Lubbock Infrastructure Fund, but it is citywide for the assistance program. If somebody's not in North and East Lubbock and they qualify, then they would qualify for that assistance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I appreciate your work on this. Has been a very difficult issue for us to deal with as a council, and it may be one of those situations where nobody's totally happy with the result, and maybe that means it's the best result we could get under the circumstances. There was a lot of disagreement, the former council and this council as to how to handle it, but hopefully this program will work for people and allow them to pay it out if they are actually the occupier of the home and are paying the bill as well. And that's interest-free, too, for a year, right?
Correct. It's
so,
typical you see in the alley, but it can be in the street, especially with these no alley subdivisions coming on.
And it avoids the situation where someone actually might have a longer lateral or a deeper lateral where that cost could vary quite a great deal. That's where the city will actually pick up that difference. So hopefully this works for people. Hopefully they understand why we have done it this way, and we'll see how it works going forward. But I appreciate all your work on it, and thank you. Any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem, yeah.
More of a comment than a question. Thank you again, Wood and the staff, but I also want to thank the committee that worked, to try to bring some light for all of us. I just want to say thank you because I think the chair is actually sitting in here, and I want to thank you for your time and for your guidance. So
We appreciate you all.
I'd like to second that. They did work many hours on this. Sounds like a simple topic. You guys have seen this more than once, and sounds like a simple topic, but it's not, and so I appreciate their efforts as well.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Franklin. All right, I'll now entertain a motion to approve item 6.6. Is there a second? Mr. Collins? Okay. Any further discussion? I see none. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye. Oh, excuse me. Didn't catch it.
Discuss this.
Okay. Sorry. Mr. Christine?
So I think this proposed ordinance is very much a compromise, and Mayor, as you said, sometimes a compromise can be a good thing, but my concern with this ordinance is that we're meeting somewhere in the middle that doesn't really completely address any principled concern about the issue. Is if we're making a decision purely on the principle that the sewer lateral line is private property, then it should be repaired by private dollars. It belongs to the homeowner. There's no dispute about that, even if it's in the alleyway. And every other city in Texas, with the exception of maybe Austin and maybe Fort Worth, citizens pay for the repairs of their own private property. We do the same thing with water lines and other connections to city utilities here in Lubbock. Now, the other principle that we could consider is the fact that overwhelmingly the citizens that I speak to want the city to continue paying for the repair. And if we're going to make a decision that we're going to subsidize the repairs to make people happy, then the more principled decision would be to maintain the status quo. But my concern with this proposal is that this $1,000 cost is not a perfect fit for the real cost to the city as it is today. The $1,000 cost is going to get even worse over time unless we go back and adjust it continuously. It's going to discourage private industry from being able to build the capability to perform this work. And without a private market of plumbers who can perform this work, homeowners are left at the mercy of government work crews to come and fix their own home. It's a limitation on private property rights in that sense. We're paying for this program with millions of dollars in taxes over the next few years. And you can say it's a wastewater fee, but say any dollar leaving your pocket and going to the government is a tax in my book. So I personally believe that this is a cost that should be carried by the property owner, not subsidized or given interest-free credit by the city. But this is a compromise. It raises taxes, it expands the scope of government, it limits private property rights, and I'm opposed to it.
Any further discussion? And let me see if I can get a clarification here. Is there availability for private companies to come in and do this work still? As the way the ordinance is written, does it restrict a private company from coming in and doing that work?
No, it doesn't. A private company can go in and do the work themselves. As it's written right now, it allows a private company to come in and do the work. Now, they have to be what we define as a registered utility contractor, which is a licensed plumber or somebody with a license that can work actually on the wastewater system.
All right. That's your
Absolutely.
understanding.
So that's one big difference of what it is today. Right now, it's the city only, so the homeowner does not have the option to repair their own line. Under here, you can choose the city, and the city will do, there's a $1,000 reimbursement that's in there. But as a homeowner, if you want to hire a plumber to go ahead and do it, you can go ahead and do it. Because we did have that discussion with the ad hoc committee, that there are situations where maybe the sewer line is not damaged, but they want to go ahead and get it replaced right now. They can go ahead and do that. So they do have the ability to do it at their expense as a property owner. That's not existing today. That's in this new ordinance.
Okay. And also, if it's a landlord who owns the house, and he's renting it out to someone, the landlord pays the full, has to pay the $1,000, and that's not stretched out over 12 months. Is that correct?
Right. It allows, if they can't pay, it does with the property owner.
Yes.
And it's defined with the property owner. The property owner has the ability to sit there and do a payment plan over 12 months. And it can be in the form of a payment agreement and part of that agreement is what's going to be established after this ordinance is passed. The form of the actual agreement itself will be established, and that's what they'll enter into over that time period if they want to pay that out over 12 months. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
I think so. If you have a situation where there's a property owner and the bill is in the name of a tenant.
Yeah,
Okay.
it envisions a separate agreement with the property owner if you want to pay out over time.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Glasheen again.
But as I recall from the sewer committee's discussion, no private plumber can complete this cost for $1,000. It's going to be multiple thousands of dollars in an ordinary job. It could be even more than that. So it's a significant subsidy that's diminishing the market's ability to respond to the needs of the community.
And Mr. Collins.
So, Mr. Wade, clarify again, if a property owner has a tenant in place, the tenant is the ratepayer, but the property owner still has an opportunity to finance over the course of a year? I thought that was just property owner, ratepayer who were the same.
No, it's the property owner that has the ability to pay over the 12 months. It is the property owner, because it's the property owner's responsibility for the sewer line and not the tenant. Because you could envision having one property and having multiple tenants over that 12-month period, right? So the agreement has to be with the property owner as far as repairing the actual sewer lateral, because they're the one who actually owns the sewer lateral.
So what's the mechanism by which you would bill the property owner over time versus a property owner / ratepayer who would be the same?
That would be the agreement that they're going to have to execute once they call us up. If they call us up, they're going to be responsible for charging. If they want to pay out over time, that'll be an option, but they're going to have to execute an agreement with us in order to do that.
Okay. It seems cumbersome, but appropriate.
Any further questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving item 6.6, please let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, let it be known by saying nay. So that motion passed 6-1. All right, we'll now take up item 6.7 to approve a resolution accepting a petition regarding the creation of the Highland Oaks Public Improvement District and calling for a public hearing. And now I'm going to call on the city manager to provide a staff briefing on this issue.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, we'll jump right into this. We did hear from a representative of Highland Oaks during your public comment. So this is the first step in the potential creation of a public improvement district that does cover what is known as Highland Oaks. As you can see on the screen, the total area of land that is covered is approximately 375 acres. And you see the description there. The purpose of this PID is a bit different than what you have seen in others. It is designed solely to fund a capital improvement project to design, procure, and construct the water infrastructure throughout the district. So, Council, this is related to the pending annexation request from Highland Oaks. That annexation request requires an election of the voters that own the property within the 375 acres, and such election will be on November 5, 2024, same as everybody else. Again, only those who are the resident property owners and are registered voters in Highland Oaks will vote for this. The PID, just put simply, this is how those residents would fund the cost of bringing City of Lubbock water to their homes if the annexation is successful. So that creates kind of a two-step dance that we'll ask the council to do. Should you accept and approve the petition today, you are also then calling a public hearing. It would be held at your meeting on October the 22nd. No further action then until after the annexation election on November 5th. And then remember, it's about 2 weeks later that you'll actually canvass the vote. If that is a positive vote, then you will come back and finish the creation of the district, and they will be off to getting their water infrastructure. Take any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Atkinson? So this just actually makes findings. We're making findings.
Correct.
And we are calling for a public hearing.
Correct.
At a later date, at a future date.
October 22nd.
And several other steps to take place after that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any further questions? All right. I'll now entertain a motion to approve item 6.7. Mr. Collins? Ms. Rose. Okay, a second? Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Any further discussion? I see none. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. I hear none. Passes unanimously, 7-0. Now we'll take up item 6.8 to approve a resolution accepting a petition to create the tax increment reinvestment zone located at North Park Development Area and calling for a public hearing. And again, I'll call on Mr. Atkinson to provide a staff briefing on this issue. Or Mr. Wade.
Mr. Glasheen, I believe, needs to recuse from this particular agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Now, Mr. Atkinson.
Okay, thank you. We'll move right into this. Just real quick for those that may be watching or listening, what is a tax increment financing zone or a tax increment reinvestment zone? A TIF or a TIERS, they're the same thing. There is no distinction or difference between them. Council, this is a special district that's authorized by the Texas Tax Code, Chapter 311. It is a tool that allows tax dollars collected on the growth of property value to be used for public improvements within that piece of geography. In a TIF or in a TIERS, those property owners do not pay more tax or a higher tax, but rather the difference between what the tax assessment is the day it is created versus what it grows to in the future. That gap or that increment is then available to come back to that zone for certain public purposes. There are some base criteria for creating a TIF, and there's two ways to do so. The base criteria is that the council finds that the development or the redevelopment as appropriate in that particular geography would not occur solely through private investment in the reasonably foreseeable future. The two ways to create this are either created by the city council, so that is a city-initiated TIF, or they can be created by a petition from the property owners subject to approval of the city council. In this case, this is a petition. So the owners of the property are requesting that you approve this. Here is the area, and I apologize, the outline boundary is a little bit light colored. It's mainly those larger open tracts. Roughly 333 acres. Erskine on the north, North Winston on the east, the Loop to the south, and Frankfurt Avenue to the west. Council, if you approve of this today, you are calling a creation public hearing and first reading for your October 8th meeting, followed by the second reading on October the 22nd, also a resolution accepting the project and the finance plan. The project and finance plan defines what are those public improvements to which that piece of the incremental tax will be spent. In the case of this particular one, and again, you will see this in much greater detail on the 22nd, but in the case of this particular request, it is predominantly for drainage, beautification, and a small park area that would be placed within this boundary. Curiosity prevails. What other such TIFs exist in the city? You have the North Overton TIF. I do believe that was a petitioned TIF. You have your Central Business District TIF or the Downtown TIF, city created. And then you have the Lubbock Business Park, also a city created TIF. So council, with that, again, your action today would be to accept this petition, call the creation public hearing for the October 8th council meeting and the related potential first reading of the ordinance. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Are there any questions? I see none, so I'll entertain a motion to approve item 6.8. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Second? Mr. Collins? Any further discussion? I see none, so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. I hear none. It passes 6-0 with Mr. Glasheen recused. All right, having exhausted all items on the agenda, this meeting is now adjourned. Please turn off your microphones.